Hi, I'm Andrew Samaha, and today I'm presenting Project Stargazer using autoencoders to visualize real estate market transactions. Now, prior to entering Galvanize, one of my professional interests was behavioral economics. And in behavioral economics comes this concept called substitutability. When two goods are being observed, if we increase the price of one of those commodities, and we see consumption of that commodity decrease, we might sometimes see consumption of other similar commodities increase. And this is substitutability. An example of this could be like gasoline in public transportation. As the price of gasoline increases, at some point, people might start to use more and more public transportation instead of buying gas. Now, in the real estate market, substitutability probably also exists. And it's very difficult to describe differences between properties because properties are complex and multidimensional and composed of mixed features like categorical, discrete, and continuous dimensions. It would be useful to have a tool to be able to describe the similarity between properties for this reason. One solution potentially to this could be autoencoders. Autoencoders are neural networks where the inputs to the neural network are mapped onto outputs using training. And in between the inputs and the hidden layers, we have a hidden layer. I'm sorry, in between the inputs and the output layer, we have a hidden layer with reduced number of dimensions. And importantly, similarity in the input space gets mapped onto similarity in this hidden layer space. And so what we might be able to do is reduce the dimensions of our housing properties into a smaller set of dimensions in order to relate them according to similarity more easily. So the goal of this project was to use hidden layer activation and trained autoencoders to visualize D transaction similarity. And those D transactions are also known as conveyances. My dataset came from Hillsborough County's clerk office on 8/11. It consisted first of over 2 million records, and after truncating it just to the last 20 years, that ended up being 1.3 million records. Those included 64 dimensions, 11 of which were numeric and monotonic, meaning that they were numeric and more meant more of the thing, and the remaining 52 were categorical dimensions. And I found it very challenging to feed these into a neural network with these different, very different data sets. And so my solution to that was to break, as a proof of concept, was to break the categorical dimensions into first a stage one autoencoder. And the stage one autoencoder produced 2 dimensions of numeric monotonic or continuous output. And those were then concatenated with the 11 remaining monotonic dimensions and fed into a stage 2 autoencoder, the hidden layer activation of which was used to produce our search space. And here's an image of that search space, or activations in that search space plotted across time. Here's an overview of the training. Mean squared error was used for those continuous monotonic dimensions, and categorical cross entropy was used for one hot encoded discrete dimensions. The precision of recall for that stage 1 autoencoder was 0.987 and 0.95 respectively, and the mean squared error of the stage 2 autoencoder was 0.0095. Here on this graph, you can see a comparison between the training and validation data, and it looks like with some additional training, we could continue to improve the model. Let me show you the app very quickly. Here is a depiction of the hidden layer activations for a given interval that I chose fairly arbitrarily. And I want to just show you that each of these data points indicates a deed conveyance. And this sort of cluster of points right here indicates $100 corrective deeds, which happen when somebody wants to change a name on a deed or change some aspect, some sort of incidental aspect of the property. Over here, we have sales qualified on credible evidence, which means sort of a fair sale. So this is some face validity to this idea that the autoencoder is learning to place similar properties and deed conveyances near each other. So the next steps are to see how these dimensions and data in these dimensions covary with changes in price. And if we do that, we could potentially identify substitutability. So for example, maybe we might observe increases in sales of larger 2-bedroom houses following increases in price in smaller 3-bedroom houses. And I chose these because intuitively larger 2 bedrooms and smaller 3 bedrooms might make sense. But the advantage of autoencoders is that we don't have to have any a priori assumptions about what's similar and what's not. Here was the technology stack that I used, and here's my contact information. Thank you so much for listening.